According to Bob Nightengale, some executives around Major League Baseball think that the Phillies could be a team that's a dark horse to sign Cody Bellinger. We're going to talk about that. Does that even make sense? Do they even have the money for it? Hey, right here on the Cubs Baseball channel today, as we continue the Cody Bellinger watch, we'll figure out if the Phillies are really a player for Cody Bellinger. Hey, thanks for hanging out, guys. Make sure that you like and subscribe. So many of you comment. Love to hear from you every single day. Let's get this thing started. Go Cubs. What do you say, everybody? It's Mick Gillispie here on the Cubs Baseball channel at Broadcaster Mick in my home studio again. Back home, but you guys went on vacation with me, and we had some fun together. Island Murata, Marathon, Key West, Tallahassee, back home, and we'll keep you updated on everything going on with the Cubs as always. But thank you for being here to hang out. All right, let's talk about the news. And I mean, how much news is it really? But a guy we respect, Bob Nightengale of the USA Today, major league executives think that Phillies could be in play for Cody Bellinger or Jordan Montgomery. All right. Well, the Cubs aren't going to sign Jordan Montgomery, but they want to sign Cody Bellinger. I feel like we do the Cody Bellinger show every single day, right? So let's do it today. And the reason why is that he was the best player on the team last year. I mean, he signs a contract, he becomes the face of the Cubs. And I'm sure that that's part of, why he's expecting a lot of money in a lot of years. And the Cubs know that, but they're kind of the sides aren't together yet, or they'd have a deal, right? And it doesn't feel like, and I said that before, that there's just a lot of teams that are interested in paying that type of contract to him. Now, everyone would love to have him. You could always find a spot for Cody Bellinger the way he played last year, but not at those terms, right? So let's just get into this. First off, is this a Boris smokescreen? Agents do this. They'll reach out to people that they know, or send some half intel that's good, half intel that's bad. Hey, here's something. Maybe that's also something that you do to the competing teams. Hey, you want them to pay a lot of money. You want them to spend as much as you can, because it means that they have less money to spend on other guys sometimes, right? Although owners wouldn't like that. They want the payroll to go this way and not this way. So is this a smokescreen? I know you guys are going to get in the comment section, and we're going to have a big debate on that. And I think it could be. I'm not sure, but I mean, it very well could be. All right, so let's talk about where Bellinger would fit in with the Phillies. Now, the Phillies, let's talk about last year. They had the team to beat, I felt like, going into the postseason. They took care of the Atlanta Braves. Then all of a sudden, against the Diamondbacks, they had all the momentum. They went to Arizona, and they just couldn't do anything. They couldn't hit. And so would it be great for them to have Bellinger? Well, they've got Bryce Harper at first base, so that takes out a potential spot for Bellinger, who, if he goes to the Cubs, obviously is going to play some first base. You got Kyle Schwarber, who I think is going to be predominantly used as designated hitter, but he'll play some left field, a well below average defender in left. Then you got Rios, who can play center field. He's kind of an up-and-coming prospect. You got to look at a guy like him and say, hey, not only can he play center field, and he did a good job at it, but he's not costing you a whole lot. You know, I mean, how much money you want to spend? They went and got Brandon Marsh, who's a left-handed outfielder, which is what Bellinger is. And then, of course, former Cub Nick Castellanos is in right field with Jake Cave. So, I mean, you're not going to put him at DH. You're not going to put him at first base. So the logical answer looking at this would be center field. So, I mean, the math could work maybe, but I don't know that the money works. I mean, look at the guys that you're paying here. I mean, you have one of the best catchers in baseball, and Realmuto. You got Bryce Young, one of the biggest contracts, best players in the game. Castellanos is paid well. Schwarber's paid well. You know, Marsh is paid. I mean, you know, so you got some money going out there. We haven't even gotten into the rotation yet. But Wheeler and Nola just got that big deal. Could it be Jordan Montgomery? See, I think Jordan Montgomery would be a better fit for them. You know, he's like a really good 3 or 4. And then what he just did in the postseason, left-handed pitcher, you know, I mean, pitching, you know, you win championships with pitching. So, you know, maybe that's more of, you know, a realistic possibility. To me, I just don't think that the Phillies are going to spend $200 million or around that for Cody Bellinger. I could see him doing it for another starting pitcher. And I know they just paid Nola. I could see him doing that if they were going to spend money. Because you get that type of rotation, and you're going to be, you know, you're going to have a much better chance of competing with the Atlanta Braves, who made a bunch of moves this offseason, but you know how good they've been. Eventually the Mets keep spending money. Maybe they'll figure it out. Although now I've reminded some of you guys, it just because you spend money doesn't mean that you're going to win. I mean, the Mets and the Padres last year were not playoff teams, and they spent a bunch of money. The Yankees spent a bunch of money, and they had, you know, about the same record as the Cubs. So you got to spend wisely with your money, you know. So we'll see. I don't know. I just kind of feel like, honestly, I just feel like that this is kind of just, is anyone going to pop up and make the Cubs sign a deal for the money that Scott Boras wants? And because whether you know it or not, there is a deadline. And the deadline is spring training. There's a deadline there. Now, it's not like a real deadline, but it's the kind of deadline where there's just going to come a point where they're going to take the best deal. And it feels like this is in the, I don't know, the sixth or seventh inning. And I could see the Cubs making some moves with relief pitchers. Honestly, I don't count the Cubs out on making a deal if they felt like they could get a big time starter to go in the rotation. And, you know, maybe you trade someone and, you know, and you get someone back that's an ace, you know, not that I would want to see Jordan Wicks get traded. But I don't think they would trade Justin Steele. I mean, that would be crazy after the year that he had last year, and Imanaga's just got there. But you know what, though? I mean, the more pitching you have, the better chance you have to win. Some of you guys asked me this. This was, I listened to Carter Hawkins on Bruce Levine's show Saturday on The Score. And one of the questions that Bruce asked, and I think Bruce does a really good job of asking baseball questions. I mean, that's what he's done forever, and he's great at it. He asked about a 6-man rotation, you know, with Imanaga signing. And I thought it was interesting. Hawkins said no, I mean, it's going to be traditional, but he said that he and Jed talk about all kind of stuff, and that's one of those things that they've talked about. I think you got to keep it at 5, but you always want to have, like Theo Epstein said, like that next guy and the next guy and the guy after him. And when you do that, when someone goes down, you can slide someone in. Maybe you don't have a 6-man rotation, but maybe you have that 6th guy when you're in a stretch where you're not getting days off or you want to skip someone in the rotation, or something that the Cubs did in 2014 a lot, where they would kind of set up the rotation based on who was the better matchup against certain teams, right? And that's something that maybe if you had an extra starter, you could do as well. So I don't know, just stuff to talk about on here. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is this: is that it just doesn't feel like to me like Cody Bellinger has a lot of momentum as he tries to find a new home when it comes to a team competing with the Cubs to pay the enormous contract that he wants to get paid. Now that could change, and again, some of you guys have said the Cubs are playing chicken, and if the Cubs don't get him, then obviously I'm wrong. But I just feel like when when Juan Soto was available, think of all the teams that were like, yeah, right? Um, Now only one team made the trade, but you were hearing a bunch of teams were interested in doing that, right? Both times he got traded. Now this is a free agency signing, but in a way, it's easier to make this deal than it would be to trade away some of your top prospects. Because I mean, I feel pretty comfortable that Bellinger is going to live up to whatever the contract is, or at least a big part of it. I think we all do. Anyway, that's where we're at right now. Just kind of that Monday, getting back in the groove of things. I saw that Bob Nightengale had said that, MLB executives, they've also, remember, MLB executives said that the Cubs were going to be active. And they've been strategically active, but I mean, think about how the Imanaga deal went. And this is why I take Bob Nightengale seriously. I mean, a lot of people didn't think the Cubs were in on Imanaga. And we're hearing, from some of our most reliable beat writers and people over in Japan that have covered Imanaga for a long time, that they thought that it was going to be between the Giants and the Angels, and it ended up being the Cubs. So the Cubs have kind of been a little strategic with the way that they've gone about it this year. But Bob was one guy that was like, hey, Cubs are in, Cubs are in, Cubs are in, and then they were in. So maybe he's right about the Phillies having some interest in Bellinger. But I'll tell you what, you got a lot of money rolled up in payroll. If you're the Phillies and you go out and sign another guy, and that's why I just don't think I don't think it would happen. I think if you're going to spend the money, if you're the Phillies, I think you go after another pitcher, and I think that would be probably Jordan Montgomery. All right, guys. Hey, you give me your opinion. Let me know what you think. We'll talk about it in the comments. Again, have a great week. Glad to be back in the home studio. Want to remind you that the Smokies team store has been our presenting sponsor this offseason. SmokiesBaseball.com/store with prospects like Pete Crow Armstrong and Owen Casey and some of their gear there. Guys like BJ Murray, jerseys and game-used bats and balls, plus the collector's corner with autographs. And then, don't forget about all the great gear, Cubs gear and Smokies championship gear. They won their first championship in 45 years. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out, and go Cubs. We'll talk to you again real soon.